Hello, my friends. So happy to be with you. I'm Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy. This is Carrie Roldan, your business BFF and our certification coach. So we have to start this off by just bringing this together. We're going to talk today about talking yourself into your dreams instead of talking yourself out of your dreams. But Carrie and I lead this event called the Aligned Up Level. It's total magic. And we right now are in the same things that we were talking about in the first day last time. Last time we made these lists of things we want to do more of and permission we want to give ourselves. And I was like, I want to wear more glitter. And she said, I want to wear my fancy sweats and have more. And this is how we showed up the second day. And we did not plan this. Here we are in what we wanted more of, in our dream representation of ourselves.
Which is pretty amazing. We just before you hit this button, we're like, oh my God, we're totally doing it.
It's the same exact sweatshirt and the same exact color of glitter too. It's the same thing. So I just want that to be a preview for you of how this is like a drop in the bucket of how amazing the Aligned Up Level is. And if you haven't already registered, go check it out. You can find it on intuitiveart.com in our workshops section. It's April 1st and 2nd. And you can also find it at rachelarchelaus.com/video if you want to go just to that registration page. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, I'm super looking forward to it, not just because it's fun for us, but because, well, okay, it is fun for us. It is what we do best. It is so fun to just, I use the word marinate a lot because I don't know what other word to use, like infuse ourselves, right? We get to marinate in the energy of the life that we want to create, right? In the energy of all that we want more of in our life, in the energy of the fullest embodiment of ourselves. And that is amazing. And selfishly, I'm super excited for it because I know what happens on the tail end of it, right? Magical stuff, just like what happened today. I mean, this is the tiniest little representation, right? But how weird and wonderful and surprise and delight that Rachel showed up in her sparkly eyes and I showed up in my fancy sweats without talking about it, without any prompting, just because we are living more and more in the energy of the life that we want. And I was telling you, Rachel, right before we went live, how I spent my day, which is doing a whole lot of nothing. Doing a whole lot of, I'm watching Anne with an E on Netflix, which is something that I've never seen. And not that I had envisioned myself watching this series on Netflix, but with the freedom to spend a whole day, if I so choose, lounging in my fancy sweats and watching Netflix, which, by the way, is not the way I choose to spend many days. But it was so nice to have today and recognize there are things on my list and I can do them and I may still do them, but I choose to honor what I really want right now, which is to get back in bed and turn on the TV. And that was pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Before we go any further, I think this highlight of free time and choice is really important to our conversation today because I cherish that. I don't function well if I don't have some freedom to take a few days off or a few weeks off or to travel for months if I want to, or just to go get some coffee in the middle of my day. Well, coffee for Eric, tea for me, but you know what I mean? We have created our lives to allow for us to prioritize how we feel. There's still things to be done. We still meet with people. We still have a schedule. But what takes precedence is us. It's us. And, I was supposed to be on another call this afternoon with my friend Courtney if you guys were there, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it. I had to go get my cat at an unforeseen time. So super apologies. But that was really all about, like, her call is like staying turned on about what you're doing. And I feel like that is how I got here. And this is really what we'll go into today. But like, how do you get fulfillment and keep fulfillment when the what that you're doing changes, right? Like, a lot of us, we think we're going to come up with this business idea and we're going to do that way for the rest of our lives, and that's going to be what makes us happy, or at least provides us income. And the thing that I have found, not just with me, but with almost every documentary I've watched about people who are like super high in their field, people I read books about, their memoirs, it's like I started noticing this pattern that they just kind of fell into what they became really well known for. And I thought that was really weird. Like, how do you go from not ever considering that kind of career to then kind of like falling into it and then being super well known for it? That didn't make sense to me. To me, those super well known people knew their whole lives what they wanted to do. That's what was in my head. And when I started unraveling that and realizing, like, you really can be subtly guided into something that's wildly successful and fulfilling and abundant, I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I know for myself, I spent the day not watching Netflix, but researching Netflix approved cameras so that I can start shooting material and selling it to Netflix. And I never, ever, 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 ever thought that would be my path. But as I look back now, I started going to film festivals and taking filmmaker classes like 5-6 years ago. And I've gone ever since. And I just went because it sounded fun and I'd meet other creative people. I've had ideas for documentaries and shows and movies. And I spent the last year and a half becoming a professional screenwriter. And like, so it kind of makes sense, but none of that was planned. I never ever thought I would be wanting to shoot my own stuff and do all that. So anyway, I just thought this was a really interesting topic. If you're here watching, let me know. Have you ever thought about this too? Have you ever wondered, like, how do you really get to the top and like have that be fulfilling and satisfying and abundant if you don't know you're going there? That's such an interesting thing to me.
It's funny. It is, I 100%. Right? Everything that you just said is my experience of, reading people's biographies. Or I just recently watched the Audrey Hepburn documentary, and same, right? Like she wanted to be a dancer. Her dream was to be a dancer. And she was told like, ooh, honey, like you started a little too late. And she started too late because of circumstances of her childhood. And then if you watch the whole story, you realize how beautifully everything comes together and how perfectly she was being guided, not just to, being a ballet dancer who then turned into an actress who had then an innate knowledge of how to use her body and how to be photographed, and then becoming a fashion icon because she knew of that. Like, and then all the way to, because of her childhood, the work she did with UNICEF later in her life. Like, it was just this beautiful bow around. It's like this perfect story that, of course, when you look back on it, you go, oh, yeah, it was the journey, and it all took, oh, what a neat little ending to that perfect story. But, when you're living it, and we are all living it, that's the point, right? When you're living it, you can't see how the things aren't connected. Like I look at my own life and my desire when I was really young, I was going to be an Olympic gymnast. And I have had a lot of dreams in my life, and I really haven't given up on many of them. But that one is one that I have, I finally let go of. But it's interesting to see that where that journey took me, right? And how it took me to my next thing. And the skill set that I brought from being a gymnast in a young age prepared me for what was coming next, right? Which it was super helpful to be strong, flexible, and disciplined as I moved into being a distance runner. And it's just like, I love it. I love how beautifully, when we don't resist, things come together. And how I heard Jerry Hicks a long time ago. I listened to something where he said, whatever it is that you want or that you think you're creating, right? They talk a lot about being deliberate creators. Whatever it is that you think you're creating, you eventually get the essence of that. And I love that, the idea of the essence of that, because what we tend to get is so much better, so much easier, so much more fulfilling than that initial dream, right? My Olympic gymnast dream, right? The initial dream was, and I don't even remember exactly what we're talking about here today, Rachel, but I just love remembering that life is always, if I let it, it's always giving me the essence of what I'm asking for and knocking my socks off in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it tops our initial visions, because we could have a vision and it can fill us up with like so many amazing feelings. Like being a top tier gymnast, is incredible to think about. For me, it was like being a well-established writer with and being able to collaborate with my current team in my publishing company. To me, that's kind of where it ended. Like that was the top for me. And then I thought like, well, writing screenplays, of course, like that came later. That sounded really fun too. But what I really wanted was more collaboration with these amazing people that I was already working with, but now I know that are still coming into my life. I just met another one who we're going to be working together, and like this new vision is everything I already wanted, plus the things that I knew I wanted but couldn't even see that bigger version of, and so much more. And I know with you, Carrie, team also made a big impact in your life. You've said being a gymnast is more of like a solitary thing. Even if you are on like a USA team, you're all competing kind of separately in the other places. But for you, you're all about team and community, and distance running is that, and now you're working with groups inside your business. So I feel like when we're open to it, and this is what we'll really get into, like, how does this happen? How do we allow this to happen? We have a positive expectation, but we're also open to being guided by our curiosities, by our little nudges and intuitions, doing the things that we thought we would never do or be interested in, and allowing our self-perception and like the story of who we are to grow and to just like flow and relax into that way of living, this like intuitive way of living. Because that's how I got here. I never envisioned taking classes in screenwriting and then researching cameras and talking about production. I never thought any of this would happen. I didn't even know Intimate Alien would happen. So there's so many things that are present in my life right now that I couldn't be without, where I just had to get there like the curvy way. And I'm sure that's true for you too.
Yeah, it's funny. I like to talk about things in terms of, for some reason, I go back to my 20-year-old self. So I'm about to be 45. So this is now 25 years ago, that's insane for me to think about. But if I think about my 20-year-old self and what she envisioned for her life, I don't know that it's that different than my current self, right? There's only so far into the future that I can project. Like I do try. I think about the things I want to accomplish before I die, or the things I want to experience before, and I imagine that I'm dying over the age of 100. So, I'm aware of like the length of time, and it's a little bit hard to project too far into the future, knowing maybe it's this, knowing how different I am now than my 20-year-old self was. What I wanted to say is my 20-year-old self, her vision of the future, right? She had things she wanted to be, to do, to have, to accomplish. And she did all of those things by the time she was 30. Like, her dreams were not big enough. Her dreams were like, they were foreseeable, but they weren't what. And then, of course, you know, as I reached those dreams, I learned to dream bigger. And I learned also to be 100% happy and fulfilled where I was. But I guess what I'm saying through all of it is, like, I know that I had to let go of what I thought I wanted, because the having of it, okay, I'll be honest, some of the getting of what I wanted, what I thought I wanted, wasn't fulfilling, right? Because it actually wasn't for me. It was some sort of like external measure of success. But what I'm trying to get at is what I really wanted. I think what most of us really want is to be more of ourselves. I can't tell you, and it seemed impossible. It seemed like this thing that get paid to be who you are. Like, that's what I wanted. Look at Rachel doing the happy dance. But that's all I wanted. Like, I wanted to not have to worry about money and just do what makes me happy. That's it. But I was
and the more we do that, the more money we get paid and the easier it is. Just had to throw that in there, because that's true.
Yes.
100% for me, you, all of the clients that are doing this that we know. Yeah.
And yet I think it's one of the hardest things for most of us to do. You know, lately I've been seeing, maybe it was in preparation for this conversation, but I've been seeing a lot of like, charge your worth, charge what you're worth. Like, and I'm like, I've always struggled with that, because I'm like, what am I going to charge? Infinite? Like, anyway, point being, I think so many of us, I actually remember, I don't know if I'm off topic here, Rachel, but one of our first conversations was I had you on my show. So I had, back in the olden days, I had a show on Google Hangouts on Air, and Rachel was a guest, and I was so excited to talk to her, because she was like one of the few real life psychics that I knew at the time, which is funny because now like all my close friends are all my close friends are psychics or therapists. So I'm not sure what that says about me, but I remember being so excited and a little terrified to talk to you, Rachel, because I was like, I wanted you to like tell me my future, right? I wanted you to tell me the things that I wanted to hear. I had seen an episode of Oprah where someone told, a psychic came on Oprah's show and told her, this was like before she was the Oprah show, told her that like she would be treated like a queen, and that she, you know, and she couldn't imagine that crap. And then 20 years later, she's like, oh yeah, that's totally my life. Anyways, I digress. So I wanted to have an Oprah moment with you. I wanted you to like look at me and tell me like, oh girl, you're going to be treated like a queen, which by the way, she didn't. But I also was like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? I think that was even the topic of the show. I just wanted you to tell me, oh, your purpose is to be a movie star, or your purpose is to be a cross-country coach, or you're like, just tell me what it is so I can do it. And you were like, Carrie, your purpose is to be you. Your purpose is to do what makes you happy. And I was like, that is the worst answer I've ever heard. Now I get it. Like, I so get it. And the more, and because of course I wanted to be paid to work my purpose, which Rachel has a whole Work Your Purpose series actually, but that's all I wanted, right? I think that's all any of us want, is to just do what comes naturally and not have to worry about money. And when the minute we try and connect those things, I don't know, I think that's where a lot of people run into issues, if we can just do what comes naturally and trust that the money will come, like that is what has been magic for me. When I finally gave up on trying to turn what comes naturally into a product and just do what comes naturally, stuff came from it. All sorts of stuff came from it. Things that maybe can be considered products came from it. But I don't know. What do you think about this? I feel like that part, I had been told so many times, let go of the money, let go of the money, let go of the money, stop making it about the money. But like the money was really important to me. And so it took a really long time to finally surrender that. Is that just because I'm stubborn, or do you feel like that is the case? I feel like this is the case for a lot of people I work with.
Well, I mean, let's get down to basics here, because we're attractive beings. We have what's in our life because of our vibration about that topic, right? We can have a different vibration about money as we do about friendships. So we'll have different experiences in our lives around friendships. They could be easy, free. We have wonderful ones. And then money, it's like, we don't have a good relationship with money. Money hates us, right? We could think that. And so it's not about whether to monetize your passions or not. It's about what is your vibration about money. Do you have a belief, a solid belief that you can't get paid to do something that's easy for you? Or it's wrong to get paid for your spiritual gifts, right? There are lots of things, like money is often a hardest topic because we have so much inner crap about it. So that's what makes it more difficult for most people. Not that it has to be, it's just that we just often have these internal monologues that are like that. Like, how come rich people can lose all their money and then be rich again, right? It's because they have a different internal belief system about money. They have an optimism and an expectation of money, and therefore it's easier for them to attract money. So it's really just about like, what is your internal settings about money? And we will talk about that at the aligned up level, little pitch. So like I had a program, my first program ever online was called the Soul-Centered Business Boot Camp. And the tagline was empower your purpose and get paid to be you. So that's what I've been helping people with my entire career, is helping people to be themselves more and more and more and attract more and more and more abundance. And like my Intuitive Art Academy, that is a monetized thing that comes really easy to me. So it's definitely doable. It doesn't mean that, you know, like monetizing what you love will make you hate it or it'll start feeling like a job. It's all about you and how you use your energy. So in terms of this, I think one of the biggest reasons why people stumble into a career that turns out to be really lucrative and fulfilling is because they are bypassing the deliberate resistance that comes up when we think this is it, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to make all my money. That focus also activates our resistance. But if we've got the blinders on and we're just taking step after step, we aren't conjuring up that resistance. It's inactive because it's not coming up against any huge expectation. So being generally optimistic and happy and knowing that everything will work out for you is often all you need in order to come into this kind of situation where all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh my God, look at how much money I made this month. And it was really fun and easy. And oh my gosh, it's happening again and again. And like, you find yourself in this place of, wow, things really are working out and I'm having a good time.
If I look at the difference maker for me, it was definitely my year of yes. So, and what that was removing sometimes quite deliberately, but removing my conditioned resistance. right? That's my year of yes, was saying yes to opportunities, saying yes to things that my conditioning often made like just a hard no, right? Saying, being open. My year of yes actually turned into a lot more a year of not actual yes, but just willingness to head down the path. Because I had committed to my year of yes. That's what it did. And I look at that as it was such a turning point in my money story. It was a turning point in my story in a lot of ways. In, you know, my family dynamics, in my like some close relationships, in where the way I'm spending my time, and like so many ways. That year was just such a pivotal point. And it was all because I chose to do what you're talking about, right? Which is just sort of like, okay, I'm willingly going down this path. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. And I'm sure I could do that. All right. Like it was a lot of that. But what it did turn into was I looked up and I was living in this better than I could have imagined house in this amazing neighborhood. And now that we've been here for a couple of years, I can totally see, oh, this was part of something so much bigger, right? This was part of such a bigger up level than I thought. I mistakenly thought like this was the destination, you know, like, oh, that's the thing that I'm wanting. Realizing that the thing that I'm wanting is only leading me further down the path, right? It's just another, look at Rachel. Yes, it's just another thing taking me further down the path to more of the life that I'm wanting. And, you know, in the same time, that year of yes I did some things that I thought were impossible. And that, you know, they're silly things. Like I talked to someone, I got a response from, they weren't like, it wasn't like I was walking a tightrope across a Grand Canyon or anything, but they were things that I had put up mental barriers about that I just said yes to, or at least had a willingness to do. And more importantly, had a willingness to believe that they could turn out differently than the story in my head. And that has changed everything. Like I can clearly remember conversations that you and I had where I would be like, kind of like, you don't get it, Rachel, that's impossible. Or it doesn't work that way. Like, and I think about how many times people say that to me, oh, it doesn't work that way, Carrie. And I was like, I think to myself, well, maybe not for you, but it works that way for me. And yet I was doing that, right? I was having that conversation with you. So anyways, that's the thing. I think if we can make our life more about knowing, trusting Jerry Hicks, right? We get the essence of what we're asking for. Even the life that we asked for is like a very small child when we couldn't possibly have, you know, when we were still in the land of make-believe. And if you're in the coaching industry, you know, like a lot of what we do, or if you've ever hired a coach, right? They ask you questions like, what did you want to be when you grow up? And what kind of games did you play when you were a little kid? And like, there's reason for that, right? It's because the essence of who you are, that what you dreamed about when you were little, the essence of that hasn't changed. Because it's the fulfillment of you. It's the fullest expression. Okay, I don't even know if this is where this conversation is going, but my epiphany is this. Rachel, you use those words, fully expressed or full expression. You use those a lot. And I use fulfillment a lot. And what I just recognized is you actually can't have one without the other. Like there may be different words for saying the same thing. Like we can't be fulfilled if we're not living in the fullest expression of ourselves. And you can't live in the fullest expression of yourself without fulfillment, without feeling dang good about it, and without really good things following. And that's why I think it's so interesting that so many of us are afraid to be who we are. It's crazy pants.
Oh my God, yes. All right. So I just have to say hi to Liz. She's been commenting.
Hey, Liz.
We love you, Liz. And yeah, so much. Oh my gosh, so much. I love this conversation. So how do you not talk yourself out of your dreams? First of all, right? Be easy on yourself. Learn to relax and know that your higher self is never going to give you a should. And so, but people will give you lots of shoulds. So try to listen to your inner could instead of the outer should, right? I could go and watch makeup videos right now on YouTube. I could go and research vans. I could go ask my friend about his production company. I could see if there's a class at the university on this thing I want to study. I could. Those are important phrases within you. And it might not be phrased as I could, but it will be, I wonder if, or wouldn't it be cool if? And then you'll probably find that that's exactly what is available to you in a way that's easily accessible. So you are going to get little bite-sized breadcrumbs on this journey, right, to this full expression and fulfillment that will be easily doable for you. Your higher self isn't going to say, okay, go get a slack line across the Grand Canyon and do that right now without any preparation. Go, you know what I mean? Like, you will be guided in a gentle, mostly comfortable way, which will probably bring up some excitement, maybe some fear in these little things, but mostly gentle, right? Your higher self knows who you are. It's not going to give you these like crazy plans that you're not going to be able to execute. So remember that. And also about this like being yourself thing, you know, you are the center of your universe. And we tend to project out into our friends and family and strangers and town mates the worst possible judgment that we could ever think of. You have to remember that that's coming from us. That's not in their heads until we put that there. So I know there's a huge fear often of like appearing different than you were yesterday, or like you've grown or changed, or like you don't fit in anymore, or, you know, trust me, I totally get that. And at different times in my life, I have felt that fear more acutely than others. But we are the ones putting the judgments out there, right? Even on the off chance that someone comes up with something on their own, like I've certainly been walking through a mall and been called a freak before, like that's nothing new to me. But if it's not in us, we're not going to care, right? Like if it's actually something that we don't agree with, we're not going to feel bad about it. So just remember that, you know, there's someone who was at our last event with us, emails me back and forth. I love talking to her. And she was wanting to know more about like the whole, the crab or the lobsters in the pot, and they keep bringing each other back down when they try to climb out. And I really feel like it's just so internal. We don't even realize that, right? No one is really trying to cut us down unless we are putting ourselves in that position and agreeing with them in some way, right? We have autonomy over our own lives. We're adults here. Even if we have a past that is traumatic and has caused bruises and wounds and all these kinds of things, we can still find the present moment and make little shifts toward feeling more confident and trusting our own inner guidance. So I just want to bring that up. Like the fear of getting cut off from society is real. It's within us. And it's good to know that, but it's also good to know that we're not like cave people anymore. And we have a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for, you know?
I'm reading what Guillaume just said. He said it's a great lesson not to be hard on ourselves. Yes. Yes, Guillaume. And when you were talking, Rachel, what was coming to me is I'm going to mix up my quotes here. One is Einstein and the other is Wayne Dyer. So, right, Wayne Dyer says when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And when you're talking about the crab in the barrel, or when I was saying, people have always said to me, well, that's not how it works, right? That is something that happens actually in my household still. Like my husband will think one way and I will think another way, and he'll be like, well, that's not how it works. And I think, oh, that's because of the reality that you've constructed, right? And I'm like, I've constructed a whole different reality. And with the crabs in the barrel, right, there's even that, like that's a story you've told yourself that, or has been told to you that you accepted, that is like, yeah, as you're trying to climb to better circumstances, it's only natural that people want to bring you down with them, right? But had you been told another story, which is as you're climbing out of the barrel, the crabs make a ladder, right? Then you would have had a completely different view of reality and a view of yourself on your ascent. And, that's the Einstein thing, is about the primary question we have to ask ourselves is, do I live in a friendly universe? And what I find fascinating is that how many of us have been told the crabs pulling you down story instead of the crabs building a ladder story, because someone wanted to protect us, right? Like that's where it generally comes from. I think most of our, even money doesn't grow on trees, right? Like we were told that because somebody thought it was in our best interest. Somebody wanted to protect us. And so I think when we can remember that we actually get to create our reality, we get to choose, do we live in a friendly universe? We get to choose the way we look at things. Like I have been eating Dove chocolates recently, and you open them up and they have wisdom inside of them, which is amazing. But one of the things that I keep opening up is something about like, be an unbridled optimist. And I'm like, yes. Like I am so for reckless optimism. I am so for expectations of crabs building a ladder for me. I'm like, because once I have the power to choose how I see this. And I'm only going to see this as positive and beneficial, and that it is somehow a rung on the ladder of things working out, no matter what it is. Man, that's life-changing. So life-changing. And it is a reminder to be gentle with ourselves, to remember, oh, I was told for years money doesn't grow on trees. So it's only natural that if I plant a money tree, I would be skeptical. It's only natural that as I water my money tree every day, that stuff's going to come up. Am I crazy? It's only natural. And as that is activated in me, as I'm watering my money tree, it's only natural that my neighbor would look over the fence and be like, what's this craziness you're doing? Right? Money doesn't grow on trees. Like that is, oh, someone's calling me. That's just all part of it. But you get more and more and more powerful and relaxed the more you choose to believe the story you want to believe.
Yes, and to know how reality really is assembled. That is the ultimate power. If you know how your world is created, that you do it through your thoughts and expectations and vibration, then you can have whatever you want or something better, right? Like we're kind of finding out here. Like another way to not talk yourself out of your dreams, something I'm doing right now is I'm researching a whole new field of study and career than I ever thought before. So I'm a newbie, I'm learning about like how a screenwriter gets a show produced, how to be a filmmaker, how to get things into film festivals. And there's a lot of really great information on that, but there's also, for each great informational, like let's say video on YouTube or article on the internet, I am also finding 10 more that are the reason why screenwriters fail, the reason why your production will never get made, the things you're doing wrong. And it's like, if I watched all of those, where do you think my vibration and expectation would go? To the toilet, right? Oh, who am I? I'm coming into this later in life. I don't have any experience. I didn't go to film school, right? I could come up with a million reasons why I would not be able to succeed doing this. But the truth is, like Carrie's saying, my reality does not work that way. I know that if I keep my vibration clear and strong and I do my best work, which is actually what I want to do, because that helps me feel my fullest expression and my fulfillment. If I do that, if I align with what makes me feel whole and good, my purpose for being here, if I'm in that zone, then I cannot go wrong. It cannot go wrong. Like, that is how this works. So if I'm feeling that, like, juiced up, on fire, aligned, like executing what I want, everything is going to come together and it will be even better than I ever would have imagined. And that doesn't mean I'll win my first competition. And that doesn't mean I'm immediately going to get paid for that. But it does mean that along the way, things will be easy for me and they will come together seamlessly and I will be supported financially. It just doesn't mean that it will be in the exact way that I would want going in, or the exact way I could envision. But if I'm in that feeling about it, about anything in life, and I'm pursuing that, everything does work out. And the journey is even better than we could have imagined.
Well, yes, that is like, I guess it just brings us back to, it's where we always end up, Rachel. Yeah, it's your vibration. And it's deliberately holding the vibration that you want to have. So, and I think that's where, people in my industry talk about your gremlins or your shadow or your, not self-sabotage. There's a word for, I can't think of the thoughts. What are the thoughts that are, I don't know, unproductive? Go ahead.
Limiting beliefs?
Thank you.
We're just psychic, that's all.
I love it when I can't even find the words, right? Okay, limiting beliefs. Yes, like people are always talking about limiting beliefs and people are always like, oh, I need to identify my limiting beliefs so that I can smash them. And it's fine. Like, we sometimes identify our limiting beliefs as they come up. And I think you and I have had this conversation before, but the whole idea is, the reason a limiting belief shows up for you is because so you can recognize it and not choose it again, right? It's so you realize, oh, there that is. And that's not actually what I believe. I always get to the place where I'm like, you just have to believe what you believe, right? Because we state that we believe something, right? I believe that I live in a vibrational universe. I believe that I create my own reality. I believe that the highest vibration wins. And I also believe that I believe in myself, right? I also believe that my dreams are coming true. So then when I look around and I see evidence that my dreams are not coming true, that is when I'm like, oh, what am I choosing to believe in this moment, right? What am I choosing? And I think that's what we're talking about. What's the title of this? How to not talk yourself out of your dreams?
Well, it's talk yourself into your dreams.
Okay.
And not out. So yes.
Okay. Right. So because what we want to say, right, is so many of us, we take the smallest failure or the first sign of like things aren't working out perfectly as a sign that it was too good to be true. I'm not meant to have it. I'll just do this other thing instead and be miserable. And how to not talk yourself out of your dreams, right? How to how to really get what you want is just, it's reckless optimism, right? It's not reckless at all, but I like using that word. Like, it's brave optimism. It's choosing to believe what you believe. It's recognizing when your vibration isn't, right? If I look around and I am being criticized by friends and relatives, it's always family, right? Like, it's like, those are the ones that we're most afraid of. Like, oh, my mom would never let me, or my older brother would think that was stupid. It's okay. Like, when we really look at it, who cares if your older brother thinks it's stupid? But that's the stuff that we really take to heart. But if we could just believe what we believe and live in alignment with our beliefs, which means choosing not to believe the limiting belief that we don't really believe anyways. Am I making any sense at all? I feel like I'm making total sense in my head, but I'm wondering if you're hearing me, if I make no sense at all.
Yeah, so basically, if there's evidence in your outside world that goes against what you think you are believing, then you need to kind of line up more fully with what you think you believe. And, you know, like, part of what I see in my clients is sometimes they will think they're doing everything right, but things really still aren't moving in their reality. And that's like, this bridge right here, what I'm going to tell you is what everybody uses to close that gap. And it's to become more internally guided, more internally motivated. You know, like, I'm curious about this, or I feel like watching this today, or I just really want to go for a drive and listen to music. All these tiny little things that have nothing to do with your career or your money situation or your relationship. This is the steering out of resistance that we need in that moment to find those bigger passions. Like, I didn't have a big passion for filmmaking a month ago, but I do now. And I wouldn't have been able to get here if I didn't follow those tiny little curiosities, like letting things come out of my mouth that I didn't know were there, or like talking to friends. So all these big things start with really, really tiny little things. And you have to allow yourself to do the little tiny little things to get to the bigger feelings, to get to the passion, the excitement, the turned on. Like, those are all amazing. And it's easier to live there once you've been there a few times and you know how to get back there. But oftentimes when you're starting this journey, trusting your intuition and trusting this vibrational nature, it's like you don't feel anything at all. I talk to a lot of people who feel really neutral about life, and I definitely used to be there. I lived there most of my life and my early adulthood. I didn't have any desires. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know I could want things. Carrie's talked about that too. So moving from kind of like a victimization place or a neutral place into this fully empowered place, it's a snowball effect. It starts off really small and slow. You don't think you're getting anywhere. You're kind of zoning out more often than not. You're just finding tiny little pleasures that feel like distractions. And it just keeps getting better and better from there, because what you're doing is you're steering yourself out of this monotonous resistance, this train, this like bullet train of negative thoughts that have created your reality so far. And you're steering yourself in the opposite direction of allowing yourself to be on this side of the river, basically, this side of the tracks. And so just know that if you are having an issue of my reality doesn't match what I know I want or what I think I'm believing or doing, pay more attention to the tiny little things that you're getting in little tiny nudges, curiosities, because that's what will get you over to the other side.
And if you don't even know that you're having those, right? I know for me, it was like, what guidance? Like, I don't have time in my life for guidance. I am busy. I am overscheduled. it would be great to be able to just take a drive, but I got stuff on my calendar. I got people depending on me. Like I was so there, which is funny now that I started with like, I spent the morning watching Netflix. And it's amazing how that has turned out in my life, and how little things that I didn't even know that I wanted, like my kids to make their own lunch or what, like I hadn't considered that was like just part of what I did. And then one day I was like, look at that, they're doing it themselves. And yes, a little bit of that was them growing up, but a lot of that was me having this asking, right? For less obligation, less responsibility, and then it showed up, right? So what I'm saying is appreciation. Man, that can be a great place to start when you're like, it would be awesome if I could just follow intuitive nudges, but I get them in the shower when I'm naked. And then by the time I get out, I've forgotten them, or I've got stuff to do, right? Spending a little bit of time in appreciation will work miracles. It will work miracles. Finding little things to appreciate is like that tiny vibrational shift that Rachel's talking about that then adds and adds and adds and adds. And not to totally tooting our own horns, if you join us, she's doing this. If you join us for the aligned up level, we will supercharge that, right? We will take that, writing your appreciation list daily for 6 months and just like inject it with, I wish I had some good analogy, but I don't, just like put it on steroids and watch when you spend this time with us in the community of other people, like marinating in the good stuff, even if you're not quite sure what your good stuff is, you will make that shift so much more quickly, and you will be so much more aware of it on the other side. You will enter this, my husband keeps calling me, you will enter this experience with us, like on one side of the river, and you will open your eyes a couple of days later and you'll be on the other side. And it is like, I'm hoping I'm not making a promise that I can't keep, except for I know that we can keep it. It's like, when you watch The Wizard of Oz and everything turned to color, that's how it feels on the other side of the aligned up level. So if you're looking for that, you should join us.
Like, I could cry at that, because that's how I feel. I have been on a spiritual journey since I was 17, and kind of fell into understanding more of this because of what my life was like then. Out of necessity, having to learn how to control my energy because it was freaking out of control and I couldn't deal with life. I had to drop out of high school. I couldn't go to restaurants or malls. Like I couldn't be around people. My empathy, my energy was just uncontrollable. And I spent a very long time just learning how to function properly again. And, in my early 20s, I had like a spiritual mentor for many years, almost 10 years actually. And so I've been doing this a really long time, and I've built up my focus and my expectation and my appreciation. I've calibrated. I've done all the things. If you ever listen to Abraham Hicks, I do all the things. And my life is amazing. Amazing. If I come up with a dream, I can check it off within days or a year, like exactly. But the thing that the aligned up level did for me, because I participated in it too, because there's 2 of us here, like I did Carrie's exercises, she did mine. And the thing that I really got out of it as an expert in this already, as much as you can be, is that literally my 2 good to be trues turned into even more and are coming true already. It's been like 3.5 months. And so I'm ready for a new one, because I'm ready for new dreams, because the dreams that I came up with that were the biggest dreams I could possibly imagine are already happening. And so, we're not like we're great. We want to spend time with you and it's going to be great. But like, this has been so personally revolutionary to us to spend 2 whole days in this vibration of calibration and expectation and focus and high vibes, like support. We're I don't know, we just want to share it with you because it's been amazing.
Well, and there's something, you know, I think most people who are watching us have probably experienced this. Like, if you meditating every day doesn't feel the same, right? And if you've had that moment of like blissful, detached, amazing, like feeling your greater self in meditation, you know that there are other times when you're just sitting there, breathing in and out, being very deliberate, like knowing this is a good habit, but also like you're not having that blissed out moment, right? And you do it every day because you know it adds up. And it makes getting to that blissed out place a little bit easier. Okay, why am I telling you this now? There was a point. Oh, it's because when you do the aligned up level, and this was the thing that happened for me, was the ease of getting there and staying there. It was so much easier. There was so much less deliberate nature of being in that higher state and then staying there for a really long time until the higher state, like Rachel's saying, just felt normal. And I think that was what was unexpected. And now that I look at it, of course it was not of course it was expected. It was our intention. And it was still, like Liz is saying, such a magical event. And so we're both, I know I'm looking forward to it personally, and I'm looking forward to it to each and every one of you, because, you know, I work with business owners in my personal business. And that was when I sent an email this week saying, this is the most important thing. Like, this matters more than anything else in your business. And I think that's the big thing for all of us, right? Is we watch YouTube videos, we research, we do all the things, but ultimately, this is what matters most. And Rachel's posted the link in the chat because you're so awesome.
Yeah, I know we're almost at time, but like, I am more interested in feeling like I am expressing myself than building like a blueprint type business that like will make me money. Because there's a lot of ads out there for stuff like that. And I've taken a lot of those classes too. I know Carrie has, especially in the beginning when we were trying to figure out like, how do we do this thing, right? How do we support ourselves? I really learned early on that unless I was being true to myself, nothing would work. Unless I was coming from the inside out, it didn't matter what strategy I had in my business, it produced nothing. And I think there are so many of those blueprint type businesses because that's the case for most people, if not all people. Like, unless there's some authenticity, and by authenticity, I don't mean that you're just like tapped in and being truthful. I mean, this is your energy coming out and coming across and coming through. And that means you are engaged, you are interested, you are enlivened. And so for me, like all this vibrational work, it is how I'm able to like support myself in the world because I know how to create my reality. But it's not a means to an end. I'm not doing this to have something or to get somewhere. I'm doing this because it feels like what I want to feel like. It feels like I am on purpose. I am being me here. It's like, you know, it's like if you went in for a massage and they were like waving their hands over you, and it's not like Reiki or anything. You're like, I don't feel anything. Can you please just put your hands down? It's that difference. right? It's like I can go through the motions of my life and maybe make some money or something, but if I'm not feeling like I'm here, to me, there's no point.
Amen, sister. that's it. You know, I was thinking, you'll often hear like, if you want to make $1 million, you have to feel like $1 million. And for the longest time, I was like, well, freaking A, I don't know what $1 million feels like. What am I gonna do? Right. But it's because it's what you just said. It's feel like how you want to feel. And then it will happen.
Yeah. All right, friends. Well, this was the fastest hour I've ever had in my life. So thanks for letting us talk about this. And thank you, Carrie.
Don't mind my husband walking by.
Yeah, he's a welcome addition. We love you guys, and maybe we'll see you next week at the Aligned Up level, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.